Hello everyone, it's Melanie. I have a cameraman today. My lovely husband has agreed to help me give you a tour of my sewing room. I cleaned it up earlier today and I thought I should take advantage of the opportunity of it being clean to give you a little tour. So, when you come in the room, this is what's behind my door. This is a piece of foam, like foam insulation that's covered with quilt batting, and I use it as a design wall. I would love to have huge area, for something like this, but it's a lot of wall space to use that you can't put anything else on. But anyway, this is the quilt I'm working on right now, and I still have, I think, about 7 blocks to go, and it's not the right dimensions, but that's my little mini design wall. This room that I'm in, when we remodeled this house, the room was originally my daughter's bedroom. So she chose the color, this minty green. She was in 5th grade when we moved to this house. So she picked the color. I didn't repaint when I moved in. And all of these shelves on this wall that have my books and stuff on them, all of these shelves were already here. She had all of her books and tchotchkes and things on there. So the whole top shelf, which I have to get a ladder, the whole top shelf, those canvas bins are yarn, and they're mostly in individual Ziploc bags because I have a fear of carpet beetles getting into my wool and stuff like that. The next 3 shelves are mostly all books. These are my sewing books. This is like doll sewing, textile science, needlework and embroidery. Whoops. More sewing. This is all quilting. And then up there I have an assortment of stuff, crochet, some knitting, beadwork, things like that. So that's my book collection. I love books, as you can see. So if you need a book suggestion, just let me know. This shelf down here is kind of a variety of things. Doesn't need a lot of explanation. There's ribbon and different goodies. I buy these, I love these little baskets from the Dollar Tree. When they have them, they usually have them each spring. And I found that what I end up doing with them is, when I'm working on a certain project, I'll separate stuff out into these bins, and then when I'm finished with that project, then I'll put all that stuff away, empty it out, and then I'll use them for another task. So this is stuff I was using doing those fabric books that I was working on. These 3 little baskets, I got these at the Dollar Tree the other day. I really like them. I only bought these 3, but I wish I'd bought more because they're really, I don't know, they're really cute, and the sides are completely straight. I have some other containers that I'll show you that the sides are not straight, and I find that is the thing that makes the biggest difference to me, is whether or not the sides are straight, because when the sides are straight, you can fit a whole lot more stuff in there. More just crochet things my mom made. This is my very first sewing machine. It's a tough stuff. Yeah. These bins down here, this is all mostly sewing notions, but it's kind of all different kinds of things. Everything from, this is hardware like belts and purses and things like that, snaps and hooks and eyelets. This is all pins, sewing pins and straight pins, scissors, short lengths of ribbon, rotary cutting stuff. This is all needles, both sewing needle, hand needles, and machine needles. There's my Velcro makers. This is where I keep like my bias tape makers. This is a tube turners and yo-yo makers, things like that. That's mostly vintage buttons, applique tools. So it's just kind of an assortment of stuff, but I am getting in and out of these boxes all the time. Fusibles, this is like different kinds of fusibles and glue. This bling box, I think, is just stuff that doesn't have any other home. beads and sequins that I haven't arranged in my other boxes. So anyway, I use those all the time and I really enjoy them. They're those, it's this Sterlite shoebox is all it is. So down across the bottom, those baskets, these laundry baskets, are from the Dollar Tree. And I've had them for a while, but they were all quilt scraps, all quilting cotton. And I recently bought a little thing I'll show you from Michael's and started going through my quilting scraps and sorting them by color. And in the process of doing that, this is all quilting scraps too. In the process of doing that, going through them, I decided that I had a lot of quilting fabrics that I'm literally like, I can't use this anymore. I'm so tired. I put this in so many quilts. I'm sick of it. I don't want to use it anymore. So I emptied out 4 baskets of quilting scraps between sorting and then some that I'm just ready to purge. So now I've got these 3 baskets are all clothes I bought at the thrift shop, the 25-cent thrift. Well, this is a shirt of mine, but I kind of divided them into solids, and this is silk, and this is all lacy stuff. So probably what I'll do is, while I'm working on those fabric journals, you know, I'll keep that stuff in there, and then when I'm kind of over the fabric journals, then I will maybe put this stuff in other containers or whatnot. This actually belongs in the closet, but it's a lot of solid fabrics, neutrals and stuff like that I was using for those quilt journals. So, or quilt journals. Anyway, this rack, my button rack, I love this rack. I got it when a Cloth World closed. I don't know, it's been over 10 years ago, I guess. And I actually went there when they were closing the store because I wanted a pattern cabinet. I've been trying to get a pattern cabinet for 20 years. And I didn't get it, but I did get this button rack. So the top half is buttons that are on cards. And then I've got some vintage sequins that are still in packages. It's a bunch of vintage plastic beads. This is all, I made these little spool cards on my, the machine that cuts things out, and then started sorting my lace onto these. It looks really cute. The only problem is I have found that although I love organizing things, I love categorizing them and making them look pretty. It's like now that stuff is on there, now that this lace is on here, it's probably been sitting there for 6 years because I don't use them now because, I don't know, it's kind of an issue. The lace I use is the stuff that's wadded up in a box. I'm very visual like that. So, this is the dress form that I actually use, and until about 1.5 years ago, we were the same size. So, these little shelves my husband built for me. These are this top one is taller. It comes out further, but I know it's probably a lot of stuff for people. I happen to love looking at all of this, and like I said, I need things out where I can see them, because if I can't see them, it's like they don't even exist. So I've got just different stuff. This linen box is from the Container Store, and it's full of vintage and otherwise zippers. Here's zippers that are not in packages. That's my grandfather's old fan that he had in his workshop. Buttons, and buttons. These are buttons with a shank, and these are flat buttons. And then over here I have knitting needles and crochet hooks. It's basically, and then I love pinwheels, so I have a little pinwheel collection. This is like vintage ribbons and things. That's some lace spools. That's a music box. I mean, this stuff's pretty self-explanatory. Natural colored and black and white flat buttons. Some of my toys from when I was a kid. There's my original strawberry shortcake doll, and then my daughter bought me this one, the 35th anniversary edition. So this is just more, here's some darning tools and upholstery. This is staple remover, industrial staple remover. So these are my basting pins, wonder clips, which I also use for quilting. This is pattern weights that I use when I'm drafting patterns or cutting clothing patterns out. This is all needles, hand sewing needles. This is where I keep all my vintage needle books. I love these things, they're so cute. This was in my room when I was little. That's Betsy, what's her name? Betsy Clark. Yeah. So just more little stuff. That's all sewing needles. This is where I keep, there's more needles, and then my calculator stays in there. This is sewing tools mostly. There's a scalpel and a hemostat and a nut picker, but you never know what you might need. So an awl, buttonhole chisel, things like that. This is my collection of tracing wheels. I can't resist tracing wheels when I find them at estate sales and stuff. So it's kind of a combination of my tracing wheels, and then I just started collecting them when I find them. I've got some Bakelite handles in there, and then this is a needle tracing wheel that's used in pattern making. This is where I keep all my little measuring tools and things like that. These are pattern notchers, and then I have some specialty scissors. Like this is a buttonhole scissor. These are my hand quilting threads, and this has got some heavy duty thread in it. These little pails that we put on little hooks under here, these are from the dollar area at Target when they first started doing that and everything was $1. And I have enough of them to go all the way across here, and I really like these. And everything stays very organized in these for, somehow I manage that. But this is measuring tapes and scissors and seam rippers and marking tools. Probably needs to be divided into two because it's kind of full. That's all thimbles. This is all beeswax and thread conditioners, stuff like that. Bodkins and knit repair matches. I guess I usually keep my lighter in there. Glues and adhesives, and then this kind of just a variety of stuff. So I have this long table that's kind of low that I keep. I have 3 machines on it right now. This is my loom, my weaving loom. This is a cover hem machine. It's a kind of a specialty machine that just does, for the most part, knits. It will hem and sew knits. This is my 4-thread serger. I use it all the time. Just rulers and things like that. This is my Juki, which is a straight stitch only quilting machine. So it only sews straight, that's all it does. But when you only do one thing, you can do it really, really well. So it's like 10,000 stitches per minute. It's got this huge, area. If you're doing quilting kind of stuff, it's all metal. It's really heavy. I'm really into the mechanical machines lately. And not computerized stuff. So I love that Juki machine. The only problem is it literally only does straight stitch. So if I want to zigzag or make a buttonhole or anything like that, I have to go to a different machine. So this desk over here is my jewelry desk / computer desk. So I've got jewelry tools up here. And some supplies. My father-in-law was a jeweler, and I have his jeweler's bench and a lot of metalworking equipment down in the basement, but this is the stuff that I keep up here. If you saw the last video, you saw these bead trays. This is where I have these bead trays that I would love to organize all of this beads. This is, I think, 3 deep. There's 3 stacks of that all the way back. I'd love to organize all of this stuff into these kinds of trays. This is my silk thread and some of my pearl cotton. I keep it in there to keep it away, keep it out of the dust. This is all jewelry related things. I keep a mirror here because I make jewelry when I sit at this desk, so I have to, you know, are these earrings too long, and what does this look like, and that kind of thing. It's not just so I can look at myself all day. This is my other favorite machine. This is a 1984 Bernina 930. I adore this machine. It's totally mechanical, all metal. You know, it doesn't do a lot of the fancy things that new machines do, but there's no computer. And I have just about had it with sewing machines that think they know better than I do. I find the computerized machines to be very slow, and slow in the sense that, you know, it's going to cut the thread and it takes forever. I could have cut the thread faster, and I don't know, all that beeping and whatnot. So I'm really in love with my mechanical machines, kind of a throwback thing, I guess. This is some weaving yarns, my embroidery hoops. That right there is just totally decorative because I didn't have anything to put in that basket, and I can't really get into it very easily. So these these shelves are from the Container Store, and I actually have 3 of them because I had them in when I had a sewing studio where I taught kids to sew. I had 3 of these, but I only have room for 1 in here. I have some thread, just assorted threads on the end, and then this is pressing and ironing tools in that basket. These are more of those Surlite bins, leather and leather crafting. I keep this stuff pretty organized. I think some of this stuff over here is just like an assortment, but these are both silk, like yardage, and from those swatch books pieces. This is where I keep my Liberty of London. This is all Kona and Moda Bella solid fabrics that I use for quilting. I think that's a color card. Yeah. Here's some textile collage stuff, vintage scrap. So this is all smaller pieces of old fabrics and feed sacks, stuff like that. These are linens, tablecloths, and doilies, whatnot. This is a wool jacket, Chanel style wool jacket that I'm working on that I need to finish. This is all vintage quilt blocks that are not sewn together. This is wool pieces and yardage, but not huge. And then this is mostly all wool felt. When I bought these shelves at the Container Store, these little bins just happen to fit perfectly on these shelves, and they're also from the Container Store. And I think they were in the kitchen department for some reason, but they're just little wire bins. And I've used these to organize all my quilting fat quarters. So they're by color, you know, reds and pinks, and this one's multicolored, and then I've got whites and blacks and grays, and so I use these a lot. I could probably use a couple more. They're kind of full, but I guess I could sew some of that, and then I wouldn't have to worry about it. Now, don't judge me on this, but I kind of collect vintage sewing notions. This is, that's just ribbon. That's not vintage stuff. This is vintage rickrack and seam bindings. And this is vintage bias tapes and hem tapes and cordings. This is hem facing and blanket bindings and things like that. some more of those Dollar Tree baskets with just, this is like little pieces of vintage quilt. This is a Tisha Moore journal cover that I started on a long time ago. I haven't worked on it in forever, but it's kind of a neat way to make a fabric journal. I need to work on that again. This is all pom-pom trim. This whole basket is cutter quilts. So this is quilts that were, old quilts that were really far beyond repair that I use to make other stuff. This is a basket of stuff. It's all fabric and some clothes I was going to cut up, that kind of thing. This basket is projects, but most of them I didn't start. This one I did. This is something I guess I was knitting. But when I go to estate sales and stuff, I love, oh, this is my project. But I love getting these vintage needlework kits and stuff like this at estate sales. So that's mostly what's in here, those old kits. I have more of these, but this is another way that I like storing my beads. I have these letterpress trays, and I would eventually love to have a cabinet built, because just like the pattern cabinet that I can't ever find, I'd love to have a cabinet to keep those drawers in. So this is the closet. I'll show you that in the end. This is my current needlepoint project. It's a K-facet peonies. I think I'm about 50% done. I haven't worked on it in a while. So this is projects. This is a scarf that I'm crocheting, and it's gotten big enough now that it really takes a long time to go all the way around, because it's a pretty small hook that I'm using. So I haven't worked on that in a while, but I will eventually finish it. This is mostly all pearl cotton. This little pegboard here has got quilting rulers and sewing rulers. These are pattern drafting things. There's my Gutermann thread. This is the that thing I bought, these carts, you know, you see them at Michael's. This is what I bought that I started going through my scraps and kind of sorting them by color, and that's when I got started going through all of that other stuff. So this doesn't really have a home. It just kind of has to roll around the room. Kind of obnoxious, but I think I'm gonna like having them sorted by color. These are my dolls. I'm not a big doll fan, you know, like a Madame Alexander or a porcelain dolls or anything like that, but I love rag dolls. So I think these two are both, these are both patterns, and then the rest of them, and maybe this one is a classic Raggedy Ann, but the rest of them they're kind of like prototypes. This was supposed to be me. See, it has hair in a bun, but I don't know what I was thinking. Her arms are so long. Anyway, one of these days I'm gonna come up with a pattern, a doll pattern that I really like, and then I'd love to make some rag dolls. So this is the quilt that I'm currently hand quilting, and it's just, I keep it in here because I take it with me sometimes. So there's the stuff in my hoop, but I just keep it in this bag, and then I can take it with me when I go somewhere that I want to work on it. There's another tray of beads. This cabinet has some of my vintage quilts down here at the bottom. These are all vintage quilts and quilt tops. These are quilt tops right here, and then old quilts. Oh, I did this in the last. This section, and it's two stacks deep. There's a whole nother. This is all feed sack, flour sack, sugar sack fabric that I've collected over the years. Up here, this is all my modern quilting cotton. This shelf I keep by designer, kind of by collection. These three stacks are Denise Schmidt, and this is Amy Butler. This is Anna Maria Horner. I can't remember what this is called. The collection's called Mimosa. Back there I have all of my Japanese linens, Lacian, and this is Heather Ross. Got polka dots here, more Denise Schmidt, and then in the back there, this is kind of, that's where I kind of keep them sorted by color. The ones that I don't have by collection or designer or whatever. So just more quilting cotton. I love keeping them in this cabinet because then they're not so, they don't get so dusty. I just have some things up there. There's not really anything up there that I use all the time. This is my Holly hobby and her sister Carrie. Maybe this is why I love rag dolls, because see, there's my one of my vintage dolls. I bought it at an antique. This, she's actually, if I get her down, I won't be able to put her back up. She's actually a toaster cover, which is why she kind of looks burned, I think. But she actually has a flat piece, like shaped like this, that would go down inside the toaster. Anyway, I thought she was kind of cool. So, let's see. Then we're back to the door. We're back over here. This is my wolf model. This is the first dress form that I ever got. Even when I was in college, my waist was, I had to pad the waist of this one before I got one that was larger. She's a 1962, I guess. And don't hate on me, it is a mink stole from the 50s, but I'm trying to honor this poor mink that somebody killed. So that's a Pam Garrison painting. Here in the middle of the room, this big table. My husband built me 2 of these tables when I had my sewing studio, and I can only fit one of them in here. But it was specifically designed, this table that he built, is specifically designed to fit one of these big cutting mats on the top, and then to fit my bins that I like so much, to fit those, you know, 2 deep. So I've got those stacked, I guess 8 on each side. I think that's jewelry stuff under there. This, I also had my husband build me. It's a, like a piece of MDF, it's pretty heavy, that I covered with just quilt batting and muslin to use as a pressing surface. So I don't have to keep my ironing board out. I can just use this. And when I'm cutting quilting cottons and stuff, this cutting surface is not the greatest, so I keep another cutting mat on here when I'm cutting quilt fabrics and stuff. Let's see, what do I have under here? So this is yarn scraps and knitting projects. This is my rag rug. That's mostly needlework wool. That's mostly crewel wool. More textile collage stuff, crochet cotton. That's more needlepoint wool, storage bags, extra bags and stuff. And then over on this side, this is more of that bling kind of stuff. I need to organize that a little better. This is all sewing machine accessories. These are embroidery flosses and some patterns and stuff inside there. Pin cushions, threads. This is assorted lace. That's all unsorted ribbon. This is another bin of those fabric headers, designer fabric card things. I think both of these are just baskets of assorted fabric, and this is a sweater that I've been knitting for like 20 years. I'm eventually going to finish it. The problem is now I've been working on it for so long that it's like already pilling, and I haven't even finished making it. So anyway, I'll show you what's in the closet. If you don't judge, no judgment. I love having this bigger closet, but I'd still love to have one that's twice as big. This is just one of those cheap shoe organizers, and it has a total variety of stuff in it. I don't know if my husband could get me in here, but so this is vintage needlepoint canvases. Some of them are completely finished, and some of them, you know, they would sell them with just the color work done, and then you just filled in the back is all you had to do. But that's full of those. This is vintage doilies and cotton lawn fabrics, little bitty scraps. So this is the kind of stuff, all of this is the kind of stuff that I want to eventually sort into that little drawer cart. This box is all quilt blocks, either extras or orphans, or some that I made and then didn't like, or when I try something new, I usually keep all the blocks. Christmas fabrics. This is, well, the whole back of this and stuff is an assortment of fabrics and some vintage quilt tops, more fabrics, more fabrics. I've got 2 bins of, this is a box and a bag full of my daughter's t-shirts that I was going to make a fabric or a rag quilt out of. This is slippery fabrics, so those are mostly polyester. I've got the wools up there. These are fabrics that I bought in Africa. This is mostly flannels and felts. These are some of my notebooks that I keep patterns and stuff in that I've printed out. This is fabrics, mostly, not this, but mostly fabrics that I bought for clothing. And I pre-wash them, and then I just have them hanging here waiting for a project. This, ta-da, is my Hello Kitty sewing machine, and I wish I could keep her out. I just don't have a place. I don't have a place to put her, and she just gets dusty if I leave her out. So she's just sitting there. This is just this whole file cabinet is full of commercial patterns. Like I said, I would love, one of the things I'd love to have in my sewing room is a real pattern cabinet. Someday I'm gonna find one. That is a bunch of stuff. This is like extra trays for the sewing machine and sewing machine covers and design boards and ironing surfaces. This is fabric that's on rolls. I think back there, there's 4 of those little brother machines, and then my computerized machine is back there, which it can stay back there because I'm frustrated with it right now. This stuff right here is my Christmas junk journal stuff. I don't have any room for it in the art room. This is felted wool sweaters. This whole section up here is all quilt batting, new and pieces like this, because I keep these little pieces if I'm doing small projects. These are my patterns that I've drafted for different garments. And behind there, this is fabric that's still on bolts. A lot of that's flannels from doing rag quilts and stuff. This is muslins and pattern paper and interfacings. This whole thing is full of, a lot of it's vintage fabric that I bought at estate sales and stuff. This is all muslin scraps. This is where I like these boxes for my quilt projects. So every time this is my the quilt I just started, but every time I have a quilt, I keep everything together. Like this is an applique quilt. So there's all the pieces and the templates and extra fabrics. So I keep those in these boxes. Let's see. Down here I have it's a bunch of extra stuff. These shoe boxes, or these photo boxes, these are the ones that I bought when I was in college and started, that's how I started, what am I trying to say? You know, storing a lot of my notions and stuff. And then I went to those plastic shoe boxes. But there's a 3-thread serger. This is my hexagon charm quilt, which, oh, I'll have to show you this project someday. I'm kind of burnt out on it, but anyway, these are some vintage sewing books that my mother-in-law gave me. This is all scraps that I've taken the time to cut into certain sizes. So if I'm going to work on something and I want, you know, scrap squares of a certain size, I have those all sorted out. This is a box of boxes, empty containers. I have, these are all vintage McCall's magazines from the 60s and 70s. They are so fun to look at. This is some catalogs and then more magazines and stuff. This is my Threads magazines that go back into the 90s. More quilting and other kind of things. This is an empty box because this quilt, Green Tea and Sweet Beans, is the one that I'm hand quilting. So when I finished, you know, sewing it, then I put all the stuff that was in here away, and this box is ready for the next project. I'll show you all these since I'm usually doing. These are some of my quilt notebooks, where I sketch out ideas and measurements. I had to start a new one. So this is the quilt I'm working on right now. So that's what all these books are just notebooks full of sewing and quilt stuff. I also have upholstery tools in there and more knitting needles. Down here I have all my serger thread is down there. Those boxes are these decorator fabric cards and fabrics that I've already dismantled the cards. This is a variety of stuff. There's more pressing tools here, and I think this is full of irons, specialty irons and travel irons and things like that. This is where I keep my all my stuff that goes with my loom for weaving. Here's my weaving journal. I can keep up with what I made. So I think that's it, guys. I think that's all I have, if that's not enough. So anyway, if you stuck with me, I appreciate it. I just want to show you my room since it's clean, because then I'll start working on another project and the table will be covered and the floor will be covered. But I will say that every time I do that, I come in here, I make a massive mess, and then when I'm kind of like, okay, I'm going to do something different, then I clean everything up like I have right now, and then I switch gears and kind of start over. So it's never so messy that I can't get it back to this state pretty easily. So anyway, this is where I do my sewing and creating. And if you enjoyed this video, give me a thumbs up, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye!